everybody. Okay, so we are going to start the next session on the weight loss group. This time I'm going to start talking about gut health. This is going to be the first of a two-part kind of thing related to gut health. Before I get into that, though, I'm going to start like I did before with my disclaimer. In this video and in all subsequent videos after this, I do not make any claims. I do not claim that any product, strategy, or plan will prevent or cure, treat any disease or illness. None of the products that I discuss have been approved by the FDA. It is advised that you seek the advice of your doctor before changing any health care plan, strategy, or beginning any new supplements. Okay, so now that that is out of the way. So, okay, today we're going to start talking about gut health. Like I said, it's going to be two parts because I'm not going to be able to fit it all in one video. Excuse me. And also, feel free to grab a pen, some paper, take notes if you want. And, you know, I know that this isn't exactly what a lot of you have expected as far as this weight loss group. But I want to assure you that there is a method to my madness. So my theory, okay, you know, the reason for me doing these videos and kind of talking for a longer period of time is, you know, if I just tell you to do something, cut out sugar, or do this or do that, you know, eat more fat, you're not going to keep up with it for the long haul because you're just doing what somebody told you. If you don't see the whole big picture and you don't see the real ramifications and implications, things that are really happening in your body, then you're not going to make this a lifestyle change. You're not going to adopt this strategy of healthy living or healthy eating for the long haul. It's going to be very easy for you in the future to just toss it aside. So my theory is I want to give you the big picture. I want to explain to you what's happening so that it really touches home and it really sticks with you, and it's really something that hopefully you will continue with. I told you at the beginning, I am not interested in repainting the outside of your house, of your temple. That is not what I do here. I'm interested in regaining health, deep internal health, mind, body, soul. And listen, you know, these videos are running between 20 and 30 minutes each. I know for a lot of you that's kind of long, but if I can just be frank for a second, you're getting several sessions, 20 to 30 minutes long, of free coaching, okay? Free coaching to regain health and help you lose weight. If you're serious about getting healthy and you're serious about weight loss, 20 to 30 minutes here and there should not be too long. I think you should, you deserve that. You should want to do that for yourself. So I'm going to give you what I'm going to give you, but only you can make that commitment to get online and to watch these and to kind of begin to adopt the strategies and to participate in what I'm telling you. So, okay, I just needed to get that out there. So, part one of gut health. All right, so today I want to talk to you about the microbiome. So what is a microbiome? Okay, so a microbiome is it's basically a collection of like microorganisms that live in a specific environment. So when we're talking about the human microbiome, we're talking about a collection of good, bad bacteria along with, like, you know, the gut flora and the funguses or viruses that all kind of live in one environment, which is the human body. They all live there together in our mouth, our nose, throat, the genital tract, but mostly in the gut. Those are the ones that I'm going to be really stressing and talking about today and actually tomorrow. It's kind of like this mini ecosystem inside of us. But the thing is it is not many. So research has shown that there are over 100 trillion organisms, okay, from 10,000 different species, different microbial species, living in the human microbiome, our ecosystem. So, I mean, in fact, only 10% of the cells in our body are human. Okay, we are mostly bacteria. We're more bug than we are human, actually, as yucky as that kind of sounds. But that's our ecosystem. So why is this microbiome, this ecosystem, so important? Why is it such a big deal? Well, okay, so the good bacteria in us, in this ecosystem, they have a job to do. They have a whole bunch of really, really vital functions in the body. And, you know, certain ones, certain strains, certain whatever have certain jobs. They do certain things. Some of the things that these microorganisms do, they get critical vitamins, okay, into the body. They fight bad bacteria, pathogens, viruses, disease, that sort of thing. Actually, the 70% of the immune system is made up in your gut by these microorganisms. So it's kind of a big deal. They control weight and metabolism. They control how your genes express themselves. It's kind of a big thing. And, you know, they are the actual starting point for inflammation. Your microbiome in your gut is actually like the gatekeeper for your inflammatory response. So it very much controls the inflammation in your body. It's also very closely connected to the brain. A lot of you have probably heard about the gut-brain connection. It's really heavily talked about right now as research and scientists uncover more and more and more about this connection. But basically, you know, embedded in the gut wall, there's this thing called the enteric nervous system, or ENS. And that's actually like a second brain. It works kind of independently, you know, by itself, but it's also that thing that connects to the brain in your head, and they send signals back and forth. And that's kind of where that phrase, you know, your gut instinct comes from. It's from your ENS, because that's where we get things like a nervous belly or butterflies or that sort of thing, or you just have this intuition. That's your second brain, your gut brain, I guess you'd say. And it's pretty substantial, actually. The ENS, it has 500 million neurons, so it's not a little brain. It's kind of a big deal. But because it's communicating with your brain, the gut-brain connection, so it's easy to see now why all of these studies are coming out that show clearly mental health impacts gut wellness and vice versa. Poor gut health, you know, it can lead to neurological and psychiatric disorders. It's like they are conversing, so when one is off, it's not uncommon to have the other off. The microbiome also produces and secretes virtually every hormone in the body. It regulates the expressions of these hormones, and it can actually like inhibit or enhance, you know, how they're used. So it kind of acts like a master control for your hormones, really. I mean, it's a big deal. In fact, some researchers, some experts in the field are actually starting to call your microbiome a virtual endocrine gland. In fact, some of them are even saying that the microbiome is more powerful than all the other endocrine glands combined. And endocrine glands like your thyroid, adrenals, reproductive organs, etc. I mean, that's just giving you an example of how big of a deal this is that we're talking about, okay? So what are some of the hormones that are produced in the gut? I'll go over a few of them because you're going to see how important they are, especially when it comes to weight loss. So serotonin. Serotonin is the happy hormone it affects our mood, okay? And 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut, okay, by the microbiome. So, you know, in your brain, your gut-brain connection that I was just talking about, it is largely dependent upon serotonin to send those signals, those messages, that communication back and forth. So without serotonin, the gut-brain connection is compromised. So it's very, very important. So here, it's not uncommon, okay, to see somebody who has depression who also has gut-related issues. In fact, sometimes, a lot of times, gut-related issues actually precede depression, and this is why. So the gut produces serotonin. It also produces dopamine. So dopamine is crucial for the reward center in the brain. Without dopamine, there's no like satisfaction or fulfillment in the things that we do. So that's crucial. Dopamine also is, people with ADHD are very typically low on dopamine, certain types of ADHD. Estrogen, the microbiome, the gut produces estrogen, all three types of estrogen. There's three kinds. They all have different potencies, but the microbiome produces all of them. Now, if the microbiome is healthy and working properly and up to par, then it's going to produce more of the estriol form of estrogen than the other two forms. And this is beneficial because estriol, you know, it reduces menopause symptoms, but it also reduces osteoporosis. And also there's a certain set of gut bacteria known as the estrobolome. And what that does is it's responsible for metabolizing estrogen and pulling it out. Those microbes kind of break down the estrogen and metabolize it. So basically, there's not going to be too much in you and cause hormonal imbalances with the other hormones. So very, very important when it comes to estrogen. The gut also produces norepinephrine. Okay, norepinephrine is a stress hormone that triggers that fight or flight response that I talked about actually in the last video when we were talking about adrenaline and cortisol. Now, here's the thing though. Some of the bacteria that produce very high levels of this stress hormone are infective microorganisms. They are the not so good bacteria. Things like E. coli and Salmonella, they can produce high levels of these stress hormones, okay? So, you know, sometimes you have people who have a lot of different anxious feelings, and there's no real like logical thought process to this anxiety or this anxiousness. It's just kind of like out of the blue. Well, it's not uncommon for people like that to have high levels of E. coli and Salmonella because these living bacteria produce those stress hormones. And so it ends up being a bad thing, you know, in the body. The microbiome produces thyroid hormones. You know, there's been studies that have shown that a low diversity of gut microbes is associated with very high levels of the thyroid stimulating hormone, which causes hyperthyroidism, too much, okay? But this can lead to hypothyroidism because, you know, you're overworking and you wear out the thyroid. But it all can stem from reduced amounts of gut bacteria. So, you know, when you ask what is the big deal about the microbiome or gut health, you know, think about everything that it affects. Think about everything I just mentioned: use of vitamins, immune system, metabolism, genes, inflammation, brain function, hormone production and regulation. I mean, I think it's safe to say that the microbiome is a very, very big deal. So some people, you know, I said, well, I'm going to do the next couple videos on gut health. Well, some people think, well, you know, I don't have stomach pains or indigestion. I'm good. That doesn't affect me. I don't need to watch this video. Think about everything that I just said. It's not just about indigestion. The microbiome is essential for good health. And, you know, we're doing a weight loss group here. So in terms of weight loss or weight gain, you know, many of the things I just mentioned, metabolism, hormones, inflammation, you know, they all have this direct effect on weight, as we've talked about in previous videos. Now we start to understand, okay, the even bigger or deeper root cause. So it's not just hormone problems or glucose hormone problems or glucose cortisol problems. So now we understand that those glucose cortisol problems actually, if you look even deeper, are a gut problem that are producing these hormone problems, cortisol problems, whatever, because everything stems from the gut. So the microbiome is so much more than that. So there's a few things that must be done to ensure good gut health, and that's kind of where I want to go today. So first of all, you have to try and avoid or get rid of the things that harm or destroy the microbiome if you want it to work properly. Remember, these are living organisms that we're talking about, and so they have the ability to die off, to decrease. So we have to protect them. So, you know, what can harm the microbiome? A lot of things, really. I'll go through a few of them in this video, probably post more information on this on the page. But the first thing I would have to say is processed food, okay? Anything that you buy in a box or in a can, you know, can potentially disrupt gut flora depending on the types of preservatives and additives and things that are in it. You especially want to avoid things with artificial sweeteners, flavored drinks, yogurt, ice cream, even health bars. And you know, yogurt, they pitch as the thing that's best for gut flora, for your gut, for the microbiome, because it has probiotics in it. But if you're getting the kind of yogurt that has artificial sweeteners in it, it's actually doing damage to it. So it's not as healthy as you think. Artificial sweeteners, they pass through the GI tract without being digested. So they actually come in direct contact with the microbes in the colon. And studies have shown, okay, in mice that after this contact, over 40 groups of bacteria were significantly altered in the microbiome, causing dysbiosis. 40 groups, that's a lot after just having artificial sweeteners. So it's kind of a big deal. One of the groups that this study showed that was severely altered is called Akkermansia. Now, Akkermansia, I have posted about it before, but Akkermansia is the bacteria that controls metabolism. So this, you know, no calorie, no sugar, artificial sweetener that they're pitching as this great, you know, diet sweetener is actually killing off all the microorganisms that control your metabolism. So your metabolism is going kaput, and you're going to gain weight. So this diet sweetener is making you gain weight in a roundabout way, but in a very real way. So, you know, you might be inclined to say then, all right, well, then I'll just use plain sugar from now on. Well, I already told you in previous videos that the implications that sugar then has on blood sugar levels, but also it's usually bleached, and I don't recommend a lot of sugar either. And sugar, there's certain bad bacteria and yeast that are in the microbiome that live on sugar. So a diet high in sugar is going to be a microbiome high in bad bacteria. So I don't advise taking that route either. For sweeteners, the only thing I really recommend is stevia, because stevia does not affect the blood sugar glucose levels, and it is not, it will not negatively affect the microbiome either. In fact, studies are showing, I think I mentioned it in another video, that liquid stevia especially has properties that can actually kill things like Lyme disease, and so it's got a lot of really good benefits. In addition to that, you know, there's certain food additives, preservatives, chemicals that really interfere with gut bacteria too. So that's kind of why I say limit or get away from the processed stuff. You know, there was a study done on mice not too long ago that showed ingredients like emulsifiers. Well, emulsifiers are things used to kind of keep oils and fats and things like that from separating. So they're in, you know, peanut butters and ice creams and things like that. They're listed as like polysorbate 80, lectin, carrageenan, a lot of things like that. But they basically, the study showed that they dramatically increase gut inflammation. And they promote, in these mice, they promoted the inflammatory bowel disease. It was quite substantial, actually. So people with IBD, Crohn's, colitis, those types of things that are very pathologically inflammatory, you really need to watch the certain additives, especially emulsifiers. So what I would suggest then, because, all right, you're going to pick up the back of some box of whatever, and you're going to start reading it, and it's going to get overwhelming because it's going to be all these things that you can't pronounce, and you're going to say, well, what is that? Is that an emulsifier? Is that an additive? Is that going to affect the microbiome? And it's going to get overwhelming. Basically, I'm going to say to you, if you pick up the back of something and you start reading ingredients and you don't know what half of them are and you can't pronounce them, put it back on the shelf, because chances are it's not good. I would also suggest that when you are shopping, spend most of your budget, your grocery budget, shopping in the perimeter of the store, the outside, okay? Shopping in the produce, in the meat department, in the dairy cooler section, okay? And then do as little shopping in the aisles with all the boxed and canned processed stuff as you can. Now I realize that there's certain things that, you know, you might need, and that's where the oils are and this and that. I'm not saying don't go down the oils, but I'm saying, you know, you get the drift. Try and limit the stuff that comes out of a box. You know, start when you're cooking dinners or lunches. And I know everybody's busy and it's hard. Maybe this is something I can get more into, posting more things on the page for you guys, but it is so crucial to make real food. I cannot stress that enough. These hamburger helper things, and these are not helping your health. They're not helping your weight. They're not helping the health of your kids. I mean, think about your kids, okay? If you have kids and they're eating a diet that's full of processed stuff, that's affecting their microbiome. That's affecting their hormone productions in teenagers. That's affecting their immune system. That's affecting all kinds of things. Their brain connection, ADHD, it's affecting their stress levels and their anxiety. Processed foods matter. Okay, so I really want to stress that. Try as hard as you can to shop the perimeter of the store and to limit these types of things that are that come in a box or come in a can or whatever. The other thing, you know, that are damaging to the microbiome, okay, I'll just give you a little list here, but a lot of times we don't even think about it, but a lot of over-the-counter type medications and products that we use, from like mouthwash to ibuprofen, aspirin, laxatives, these type of things all have stuff in it that are very, very damaging to the microbiome. If you need natural recommendations, please message me and I will help you with that. But taking ibuprofen every day or taking some of these things, antacids, you're ruining you're disrupting the microbiome, okay? And it's causing a domino effect of other issues in the body. Chlorinated drinking water. Chlorinated drinking water can make it almost impossible to maintain an ideal, healthy bacterial flora in the GI tract, because basically chlorine kills all bacteria. So you're getting rid of the good bacteria that you need. Pesticides and stuff on your produce. Look for organic. These severely affect the microbiome. Artificial food coloring. You would be surprised how many things have artificial food coloring in them. Marshmallows typically do. Cottage cheese a lot of times has food coloring. It has blue dye in it. These things severely affect the microbiome. So especially when you're looking for things to feed your kids, remember all of the things that the microbiome does and ask yourself, is this colored whatever worth my child's immune system or hyperactivity or stress or hormones? I would say no, it's not. There's probably a less colored alternative somewhere. Altered or hydrogenated oils, meaning things like vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil, and other seed oils. These are hydrogenated oils that have been altered, and they are very, very inflammatory, and so they too will affect the microbiome. Increased consumption of carbohydrates. Again, like we talked about before, carbohydrates, they turn into sugar in the body, into glucose. And that glucose can have a negative effect on the microbiome, because it can essentially feed the bad bacteria. So it's not just, like I said, a diet high in sugar is a diet, or is a microbiome high in bad bacteria, but a diet high in carbohydrates is also a microbiome high in bad bacteria. So try to think what is happening after that carbohydrate, or those carbohydrates that you eat. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is antibiotics. So usually when I am working with a client, health coaching one-on-one, okay, one of the first things that I ask in the preliminary consultation is, have you ever taken an antibiotic? And usually that question shocks a lot of people, because they're like, well, what do you mean, have I ever? Well, of course I've taken one before, but it was a while ago and it was only once. Or, yeah, I take them here and there. And so people are kind of shocked that I care so much about having one antibiotic. Well, here's why. A study was done by London University, okay, recently, that said a 600 milligram dose of Augmentin, an antibiotic, okay, can reduce the gut microbiome by 90%. 90%. That's one dose, just one single 600 milligram dose. So now I want you to think about what a 5-day pack of antibiotics or 21 days of antibiotics, what is that doing to the microbiome? This is important to consider. It's not, and yes, okay, the microbiome, it can bounce back. These are living organisms. They can regrow and proliferate, but they need a good environment to do that, which many of us do not have. And the question becomes then, okay, which strains bounced back from that and which ones didn't? It is very rare that after a dose of antibiotics, without intervention, without adding anything new or probiotics, that your gut just all of a sudden bounced back to where it was in all of the strains. So it's kind of a big deal. If you've somebody who has had many doses of antibiotics in your life, or even if you've taken, say, oh, maybe I've taken it 3 or 4 times in my X amount of years, it did affect the microbiome, and it is important to consider. You know, I'm giving an example of my two youngest kids. A lot of you know that they both have been diagnosed with Lyme disease, okay? And my one daughter actually had it for quite some time, and it was undiagnosed prior to us finding out. But, you know, years ago, we were in the doctor, oh my gosh, every couple weeks, every month, because it was chronic ear infections. I mean, sinus infections. Both of them had pneumonia a couple different times, and so they were taking antibiotics. And I don't like antibiotics, but as a mother, I'm sitting there going, it's a pneumonia, and they're, you know, these different things. And it just got to be the point when my 3-year-old was then diagnosed with Lyme disease, and it was really, really bad. It was antibiotic-resistant Lyme disease. Now, was the Lyme disease antibiotic resistant, or was she just now immune to antibiotics because of, I don't know, but it didn't work. And so we just had to find an alternative. And I just said, you know what, we're done. My mommy gut knows that this is not good for them, that this is not helping them, and that we need to get their microbiome under control. Like my gut, my second brain, okay, was just really, really feeling this. And so my husband and I said, okay, let's do it. Let's take the natural path. And I'm going to tell you, okay, it's been a long journey, but my kids this winter, they have not been to the doctor or needed an antibiotic in over a year and a half. Now, they didn't have one cold, one ear infection, one sore throat, nothing in a year and a half. And they were, in previous years, every month, every couple of weeks with something. So my point is, we stopped needing antibiotics when we stopped taking antibiotics. Now, the reason is because we focused so much on rebuilding that microbiome. And 70% of the immune system is in the microbiome, so they became more able to fight these things off just within themselves, and didn't need that. So antibiotics are crucial to consider. I want you to consider whether you've taken them, how many you've taken them, for what extent or period of time did you take them, and I want you to consider the effects that it could possibly be having on your body currently if you have not regrown or proliferated those strains. So that is part one. I'm going to stop there because there's more that I want to talk about, but I'm going to do it in a different video because I know we're running long here. That is part one on gut health, okay, the microbiome. So you heard it. Now I want you to think about your microbiome. You know, could yours be compromised? Like I gave you all these different ways that microbiomes are compromised. Think about whether or not yours is. Could the microbiome then in you be affecting your weight, your hormones, inflammation, your immune system, etc.? And then see it, okay? Take a good hard look at your day-to-day, your everyday life. And I want you to look and say, okay, what harmful things am I doing that are harmful to my microbiome, my ecosystem? What do I eat? What do I, you know, these types of things. Maybe your diet is high in processed food, or you take a lot of OTC, you know, pain meds or this and that. You drink a lot of diet soda with artificial sweeteners, whatever it is. Look at your lifestyle, find what could be the culprit, and then do it. I want you to get rid of it. Like, toss it out. When I first did this and I first started going through this, I got a big giant garbage bag and I went over in my pantry. And at first I was like, I'm throwing money down the drain. But you're not just throwing money down the drain. You're essentially throwing things out that are harming you, and you're making that commitment to, I'm gonna do this for my health. I'm getting healthy. Now, if you keep those artificial sweeteners and this and that in your pantry and your cupboards, tomorrow when you're hungry, you're going to kind of be like, yeah, I know she said that it does that to my gut, but I'm really hungry. And you're going to take that as your snack. So I want you to take that big garbage bag, and I want you to go through your cupboards and your pantry, and I want you to get rid of everything that's microbiome harmful. And then I want you to tune in tomorrow for part 2 of gut health, because that's only the first part. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about things that we need to start introducing and doing to not just get the bad out, but to help the good start to grow and proliferate and flourish, so that your immune system response goes up, your inflammation goes down, your hormones regulate. We're going to get your metabolism going, that type of stuff. So tomorrow is a very important one too. Okay, that is the first session on gut health, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Make sure you are either liking or commenting on the video so that I know you're participating, because we still are going to do the drawing when this is all over, and only those people who are participating and commenting and liking are going to be entered in the drawing. So, okay, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.